Good evening and welcome to tonight's webinar. It's the first in a two-part, which is quite exciting. We've not had that for a little while. We're very grateful for Adrian for talking for us tonight. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Very warm welcome to everyone joining us by Zoom. Hopefully people are familiar with Good evening and welcome to tonight's webinar. I think there's a slight technical hitch there. Sorry about that. Very grateful to Adrian for coming along this evening to talk to us about 41 Surprise Minor. I thought we'd just go through a few housekeeping notes before we get going. Those of you who are joining on Zoom, very warm welcome. Hopefully you'll be relatively familiar with the process now, you should have the chat and the question and answer interface either available at the bottom of the screen if you're joining by PC, or in a toolbar at the bottom of the app if you're joining by mobile phone. Adrian will be very grateful for interaction. It lets him know there's an audience there. He may not respond directly to any questions or points that you make, but it's always reassuring to know that there are some people out there. Adrian is planning to talk for about 50 minutes this evening, and there will be a chance for a question and answer at the end. But we're going to be focusing on an introduction to the 41 and underworks this week, and then it's going to be overworks and tying it all together next week. Hopefully I've got that the right way around. I'm sure Adrian will correct me if I'm wrong in that. So we can take some questions tonight, but you may also think that you want to listen to the whole story before you start piling in with loads and loads of questions. Do bear in mind that only the cameras and microphones on Adrian and my computer are going to be active during the session, so please do feel free to get up and move around, and you're not going to be disturbing anyone or anything. So do make yourself comfortable. So without much further ado, I'm going to introduce Adrian. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming along to talk to us this evening, and I'll hand over to you now if that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to everyone. My name is Adrian Sweeting. Some of you know me, some don't. I ring in Barnet in North London, but I've spent plenty of time ringing in the East Midlands because I went to university in Nottingham. I ring peals, quarters, and have rung several peals of splice minor of various sorts. I've been a tower captain, district ringmaster, various things. One of the things I've found is that people have a huge block getting past Cambridge, getting on to ring other minor methods, splicing, all that sort of thing, really. So hopefully I can show you some ways of thinking which, it might not suit you. It might take some of the mystery out of it, though. And once we can get out ringing again, it might provide the odd spark, and, it all seems a bit more sensible, really. So I'll show you sort of my set of mental tools to move from Cambridge on to the standard regular surprise minor methods, and more besides, because there's a lot more. Just a slight correction, we're doing backworks today, frontworks next week. Why? Well, because it's slightly less involved doing the backworks. In fact, why I'm even doing this is because, as usual in the pub, somebody asked me, how do you get past Cambridge? How do you learn all these new methods? And I said, well, they're mostly just Cambridge anyway. You just fiddle around with it a bit. At which point they went, you'll have to explain that. Anyway, apologies for looking around all the time. I've got two screens. So I am going to attempt to share screen, which would be a lot easier if I could find the share screen button. So hopefully you can now all see my introduction. So what's the title of this talk? Well, that's as good as anything. You can ring Cambridge Minor. What next? Everything. Why not just ring everything after that? There's supposed to be 4 segments. This is the introduction. Then I'll do backworks. That'll be enough for this week. Then next week, frontworks, and then the really important bit: how do you learn it, and what do you learn? Anyway, so apologies. I've got 2 screens. I keep flicking across. It'll all calm down in a minute when I have finished the introduction. So the first thing is, I believe I've just managed to change size there. Right, the first thing is, how much minor is there? Treble bob minor we're talking about, with the treble bobbing. Okay, well, I've got a few, I'm going to ask here if there's a problem. Is my screen paused? I'm getting a paused sign on my thing. So I'm going to stop the share and start it again. Right. So the question is, how much minor is there? Well, here's some. Look, here's a table of surprise methods. I've never heard of most of them. Never rung any of them, I shouldn't think. They're not standard. They're not regular. We're not interested in them. Here's another table. This has loads more methods in. So if you can see my cursor, which is rather cross-shaped and faint, it's split up into 4 sections. This will become a bit of a theme. So we're interested in the surprise methods. So these are all different. And again, none of us have really ever heard of them or rung them. We're not interested in them either. Okay, so there's a lot of minor out there. So now, at least, this has a very similar structure. We have treble bob methods, 4th place delights, 3rd place delights, surprise methods. This will all make more sense in a couple of minutes. We're interested in surprise methods down in the bottom right-hand corner. There are contained in here 41 standard regular surprise methods and lots of other things besides. So now we have the question of, what does standard and regular mean? Well, first of all, let's talk about surprise. I know Stephen covered this in a previous talk. So an internal place, I'm going to slightly define it differently from him. An internal place on minor is in 3 or 4. You'll see why in a minute. So in a surprise minor method, when the treble is moving between dodges, here and here, and the same in the second half of the lead, an internal place must be made. So as the treble arrives in 3/4, you have to make 4ths. As the treble leaves 3/4 and goes up, you have to make 3rds. The opposite is made. The opposite happens at the second half of the lead. Okay. This is included, just for those of you who know Yorkshire. The internal place doesn't have to be next to the treble. Okay. But for minor, it obviously does, because you've only got 3rd or 4th. So that was a marvelously unclear explanation. It will become more clear now. Because if you make 4ths as the treble is moving 2, 3, 4, but you don't make 3rds when the treble is going up to the back, that's called a delight method. And because 4ths is made, that's a 4th place delight. Believe it or not, this will become relatively sensible later. If you make the place after the dodge while the treble is transitioning up, you don't make a dodge before, that's also a delight method. This is a 3rds place delight. And if you don't make a place whenever the treble transitions, that is a treble bob. So now that's not the prettiest. This is a bit easier to see in this diagram. So we have the 4 sections here. Treble bob methods, no place is made internally when the treble's moving. 4th place made, or 3rd place is made, and in the surprise, 3rds and 4ths is made. Okay, so that is surprise. That is the first of the words we're defining, which was standard, regular, surprise. Okay, so it basically means you can just look at part of the table, ignore the rest. So I've trimmed this table down. You've got just the surprise methods. So you've got things like Bourne, and Cambridge will be here somewhere, and Ipswich, and things that you recognise, and also things like King Edward, Coverley, Whiston that you don't recognise. Okay, so obviously we've not narrowed it down to the 41 yet. Okay, we need standard regular ones. So what are regular methods? Okay, regular methods have these lead ends. So the lead ends of a plain course of plain bob minor are these. If a method has in the plain course the same lead ends, they don't have to be in the same order, but if they have the same lead ends, they're called regular. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller. There you go, Goldilocks. So if you can see here, I hope this isn't too small, just lean close. Cambridge surprise minor, that is a regular method. The first lead end is, I'm going to make it, I'm sure I can squeeze it a little bit bigger. There we go. So the first lead end is 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 2. 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 2. There we go. We've got a regular lead end. All the rest will be these. Okay, Cambridge is regular. Here, King Edward, which is a very similar method, the first lead end is 1, 5, 4, 6, 3, 2. 1, 5, 4, 3, 6, 2, not in the list. So this is an irregular method. So we know that is not one of the 41. So that's surprise and standard. And regular defined. So all we've got left is that annoying word standard. There are rules, okay? And this is basically the rules. You mustn't stay anywhere for more than 2 blows. Now, obviously, you're going to say to me, "Ah, yeah, but what about a single in or a bob in Carlisle or something?" Yeah, absolutely. Excluding the effective calls. So in the plain course, no more than 2 consecutive calls. You're not allowed to make fifths except under the treble. The method is symmetrical around the half lead. I think Stephen was talking about that in the blue line course. Only 1 bell can make a place at the lead end or the half lead aside from the treble. We'll get on to that. No single change methods are included. Yeah, it's not particularly interesting or important, that rule. We will talk about single change methods if we get time next time. So within these rules, which are basically don't stay too long anywhere, don't make fifths, except when the treble's there, we can look at the backworks. So what is a backwork? Some people call it backwork, some people, let's say, over the treble, some people say above work, some people put a space in and call it above work. But what that means basically is there are 2 bits. If you think about if you're learning a play spell at Cambridge, if you're learning seconds play spell Cambridge, you learn dodge lead seconds, dodge lead dodge, double lie single 6 play spell. Okay. The backwork, you learn 2 separate bits. You learn from the start of the lead, which I'm guessing you will know as your start. And you keep going till you meet the treble. So for instance, sixth play spell, start is down. You pass the treble in 2-3. So that's, you know, there's not much to learn on that one. Third play spell is double lie single with the treble. So that's, you just learn that as one separate chunk. The other, and that will of course come in the first half of the lead. The second bit you learn is what you do after you pass the treble going up. Well, the treble's coming in, you're going up, and you have to know what to do. So for instance, as you're coming off the front, you pass the treble in 2-3, you dodge 5-6 and become fifth place spell in Cambridge. So you may think of it visually, you may think of it in words. Don't know, I used to do it all in words. I used to sort of get it down to a couple of words, and then I sort of, I've changed over the years and I think of it more as a picture now. But this, you know, I hope this is all fairly familiar stuff. The trick is here to cut it down so you're not learning the whole lead. So they're the words for fourth place spell, for instance. You might say places, or you might say thirds, fourths, dodge, treble. But you know what you mean. It doesn't matter. As long as you know what you mean, you learn something sensible. There's no right and wrong. Somebody said to me once, I said, oh, how'd you learn that bit? And they went, oh, I'm not going to tell you, it's too silly. And it was something about grocers or bakers or something. If it works, it works. So if you're looking at the pictures here, look, third place spell, very familiar. Fourth place spell, fifth place spell, sixth place spell. That's all you learn. And there's amazingly little to learn. That's the longest one, and that's the bit we all know best, because that's the bit we're all grasping for when we're ringing away in Cambridge and you're getting a bit stressed and you need a rest. You're hoping to hit third place spell, aren't you? Why'd you learn it like this? Well, two reasons really. One is you can, instead of waiting 24 blows to ring a lead, get to the lead end and know where you are, you're bound to pass the, even on the third, you pass the treble after whatever it is, 8 or 9 blows, 10 blows maybe. So you've got a chance. If you know where you're expecting the treble, you're going to catch the treble earlier. You're going to see the treble coming. You're going to know what you do. You're trying to keep yourself right more. As Stephen explained in his blue line talk, you just swap it over. And the end of the lead becomes quite obvious. Always a bit harder to learn. You're always a little bit unsure on the way up whether you're going to pass treble in 4-5 or dodge the treble. But then you find the treble and you know what to do. So you sit down and you learn these bits. You get them safe and sound in your head so that you're comfortable with it. Because this takes up half the method. Half the method is above the treble. So if you know all this, then all the Cambridge above methods, you know half of them already. Now we're on to another little aspect which people don't always get quite right, okay? First of all, as I have been doing already, everyone says the lead end is the backstroke when the treble is leading. It's actually not. That is the lead head. If you look here, look, the lead head is the hand stroke, the lead end is the backstroke. And this will not change what you're doing. You will still think of the lead end as the backstroke, but this is important when it comes to varying what you're learning. Why is this important? Well, we're just about to find out. Let me just shrink it down again. So lead end is the backstroke. So for instance, going back to seconds place spell, dodge lead seconds, dodge lead dodge, double lie into fifth place spell. And that is the end. That is the end of seconds place Cambridge, okay? That hand stroke there is the end. You then make a decision whether you're going to dodge or whether you're not going to dodge. And why would you do that? Because you might be ringing primrose. I will show you more clearly. So here we are, you're ringing third place spell. here we go. Oh, relax, relax. Oh, I know this one. Thank goodness for that. Ring, 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 ring. Get down to the hand stroke, and a little alarm bell goes off in your head. Hang on a sec. Am I ringing Primrose? Oh, hang on. Somebody's just called a bob, or somebody's just called a single. So you get up to this hand stroke absolutely confidently. You then decide what to do. You could run in. That might be a bob. It could be Primrose. You might dodge and become fourth place bell. That'd be Cambridge. You could make thirds. That'd be a single. Okay. I'm not getting anything on chat here. No one's going, hey, say that all again. If you feel free, if you want me to go back over anything, I am more than willing to. Okay, so the crucial bit is whenever you're dealing with above work, you go to the hand stroke and you decide what the lead end transformation is going to be. So between the treble lead in hand and back, you then make a decision. Okay, and you've got to be, I'll get onto this when we're talking about what you learn and what you think when you're ringing. You have to be fairly flexible, because if you're ringing a lot of spliced, it doesn't matter who you are. Well, with certain exceptions, I'm sure there are certain exceptions in the Cambridge district who never ever get to the end of the lead end and forget whether it's the second or sixth place lead end. But us mortals, there will be a point where we forget, and so you have to really concentrate and be able to think about the implications of your lead end. And it all comes from understanding that your blue line finishes here, and then you do one more change, and that's your play spell, and off you go ringing your next bit of above work. Okay. So I'm talking happily here about second and sixth place lead ends. Okay. By lead end, I mean what happens between the treble, hand stroke and backstroke lead. Okay. One of the rules is only one bell apart from the treble can make a place. Okay. If it makes fourths, then I think we're all pretty happy that's a bob's being called. Okay. If a bell makes thirds or fifths, if you've got the treble leading, somebody makes thirds, somebody's got to make seconds. That can't be a proper lead end, because you've got three bells so far making a place. Same with the five, it forces the bell at the back to make a place. So you've got a choice of making seconds or sixths while the treble's leading. So here we have Cambridge. You ring your third place bell, happily go on. Somebody makes this rather pretty orange seconds, just like they would in plain bob, little bob, forces everyone above to dodge. Okay, so you dodge back, become fourth place bell. If, however, you get to about here and suddenly remember that you're ringing Primrose, then you remember it's going to be a sixth place lead end. So treble leads, somebody makes six, and there's no opportunity to dodge because nobody's making seconds. You have to go on. So you run in. So, okay, you know Cambridge. Now, if you think about it up to this hand stroke and then decide what to do at the backstroke, oh, you've suddenly got Cambridge and Primrose. So you've got a free method there. That's brilliant. This is all about getting free methods. It really is. The easier it is to transform from one method to another, the better. However, if I just nip back to this table here, just looking at this surprise area, I will make this nice and big. So we're just looking at the surprise methods. Very slantily scanned in, if you can see that. They're not all Cambridge above, okay? You've got Cambridge, and I don't like necessarily the terminology in this table, okay? It's not my table, it's from, I'll give them credit later, I will show you who it is. But you see there's a whole bunch of methods which have Primrose above, which is Cambridge with a lead end of 1-6 instead of a lead end of 1-2. But you've also got Chester, Morpeth, London. You know, you've got all these other ones. Well, how do we know what they are? So we're going to start with the treble lying at the back, and then it dodges, at the back, goes in, dodges 3, 4, dodges and leads. So this is half a lead, okay? Now, if you are at the back with the treble, you have to dodge and lie because the treble is dodging and clearing off, okay? That's 4 blows. You're committed, you cannot change those, okay? Absolutely no choice. The next 2 blows, a bell joins you. And could you stay in fifths? No, you can't, because you're not allowed to make fifths except when the treble's under you and the treble's in 3, 4. Can you go in? Nope, because the treble's dodging and the treble takes priority and shoves everyone else out of the way. So your next 2 blows, assuming you're the red bell, is you have to go down to fifths, up to 6. The bell coming up to the back has to go to 6 and back to fifths. It's a dodge. So that's 2 more blows, okay? That's 6 blows. You've had no choice on what you can do yet. So all quite straightforward so far. The 7th blow. So I'm just going to count on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have to complete the dodge, or carry on with the dodge, sorry, because the treble's still dodging in 3, 4. This bell that came up to join us in black can't make fifths, not allowed to make fifths. So it has to go back to 6. You have to go to fifths. It can't go in because the treble's still dodging in 3, 4. Okay, that's 7 blows. No choice yet. Still got to be doing the same thing. Now, I will just point out at this point, there is absolutely nothing wrong with making fifths and 6 here. It still can lead to valid methods, but they're not standard. They don't obey the rules that we started with, okay? And rules is rules. You've got to follow them. Okay, so we've rung 7 blows. Still no free will or self-determination yet. Now the 8th blow, right? It's a surprise method, okay? We know that the bell dodging the treble has to make fourths. Otherwise, it's not a surprise method, okay? The red bell is not allowed to make fifths. It has to carry on dodging. The black bell has to dodge because the 6th bell has dodged. That's 8 blows. Still no free will. It's, you know, it's looking a bit dull now, isn't it? This line here is split in this hand stroke and backstroke at the lead end and the lead head, okay? We've got 1, 2, 3 blows left, and you'll be pleased to know you've got a bit of free will and a bit of choice on what to do now. So this is where it gets rather more interesting. So if you look at the red, for instance, that's Cambridge. Okay, the black, oh, it's Cambridge. Oh, the green, it's Cambridge. This, I don't quite know what to call that, orange. That's Cambridge. Everything's Cambridge so far, okay? Now, we're still going to follow the rules, but now we have a choice. Either in the first 2 columns, you see the red decides, oh, I'm going to carry on dodging, why not? So it's dodged, lie, 1, 2, double dodge, finish your double dodge. The first 2 columns are the same. 5 has, I say 5, the black one has to dodge. So you're not allowed 3 blows in one place. So green has to go in, orange must come out. Okay, that's the first 2 columns. Now, getting a bit more radical over here, you've dodged, lie, nearly double. The red's going to stay behind, okay? Black can't make fifths, forced to go in. Because it goes in, green has to come out to fill the hole, orange has to make thirds. Yep, so these 2 are the same. You'll see why. You'll see why I've got 4 columns later. So you see, we've got a bit of choice there, and they're looking quite different. You know, if you're going to dodge, lie, whatever you want to call it, double lie, you know, that's a bit different from dodge, lie, double, and, you know, you've got a chance to go in there. You can't go in from there. So that was your first blow. Your next blow with the choice. We'll start over here. We'll start with C and D because they're still the same. You've made that choice on the last blow to lie behind as the red one. Okay, that's now can't stay at the back for 3 blows. It has to come in. Forces green out. The orange made thirds. It's forced to go out. You're not allowed 3 blows in one place. The black has to go in. Okay, so C and D are the same because there is no alternative at this point if you make that place in 6 on the 8th blow, 9th blow even, the first blow with the choice. So then we come to A and B. Well, so look at the red one. You're going to go dodge, lie, 1, 2, 2 dodges, go in. Right, that's familiar. That's Cambridge backwork, isn't it? The black one has to stay behind because 6 is cleared off. It forces the orange one to come out. It forces the green one to go in. Just the act of the 6 coming in. Well, I call it the 6. The bell that was in 6, okay, the red one. So in column B, okay, oh, I'm not going in. I'm gonna dodge back. I'm gonna keep dodging. I've not had enough dodging yet. Okay, so the black one is forced to dodge, and the green one has just made fourths because it's a surprise method. Can't make 3 blows there. Forced to go in. The orange is forced to go out. This is the previous blow. These 2 now have to make a place. Okay, so you have to have the green in thirds and the orange in fourths. If you don't, then you get all 6 bells swapping and then swapping back. You repeat to change, the method's false. Okay. So far you've had 2 blows of free will and you've only got 4 variations. So we're not doing badly. So now we come up to the hand stroke, which is just at the lead end. Okay. This is your 3rd blow with the choice. So we'll look at this A first. Let's just go back to remind ourselves where we are. We've got 5 lying behind. You know 5's got to come in next time, okay? That'll be our key point. So 5 has to come in, okay? Because you can't have 3 blows at the back. Orange has to go up. Green has had 2 blows in 3, has to go up. Red has to go in. Similarly, I'm going to speed up now. Similarly, because these have dodged, these had to make a place. 3 has to come out. 3, the bell in 3rd. Green has to go out. Orange has to go in. These have to dodge because you can't make 5ths. Okay. It is quite tedious, but what I'm showing you is that there's 3 blows you've got a choice in, and you don't get much choice. So here, if we just pop back up, we've got to the red one making a place and coming down. It could go in, it could go out. If it goes in, this is the only possible combination. If it goes out, this is the only possible combination, okay? I will leave that as an exercise. I'm waiting to see, Ian, do you want anything repeating? Okay, so finally the lead end. So we know we can have a 2nd or a 6th place lead end, okay? So A, B, and D, we could have somebody making 2nds and a cross here, a dodge. We could have a place at the back and everyone running through. If you look at C, just before the lead end, somebody makes 6. You're not allowed 3 blows in the same place. You can't have a 6th place lead end. So I only have a 2nd place lead end, okay? And finally the names. So that's Cambridge above, that's Norwich above, that's London above, which is carefully highlighting everything but London, and that is Carlisle above. These are what I would regard as the standard names, okay? If we flip to this table, Carlisle is called Chester if it, oh dear, Chester if it's the 2nd place, Morpeth if it's the 6th place. Again, everyone has their own conventions, but I would regard these as fairly standard ways of calling it. If you went into a town and say, oh, what's that method you want me to ring? And somebody says, I would expect them to say to me, Carlisle above 2nd place lead end, or Carlisle above 6th place lead end. If they start going Morpeth and whatever, I'd have to go, oh, which one's that? You know, I'd have to work it out. So that's what I would regard as sensible. Now, as Stephen explained, everything's symmetrical. So you get the starts of the leads, okay? This is just everything worked back. So these are now the starts. So Cambridge, you know 3 goes out and 6 goes in. Norwich, whoever's 3rd place bell makes 4th and goes in. And there's dodging at the back. You know, so you learn these little bits. 5 goes in London, 3 and 6 make a place. Carlisle, a point at the back, 4th, 3rds. So you learn something short and snappy, because from the 3rd blow onwards, everything's the same. If you know what to do, if you're in 4th place, 3 blows into the lead, see how all these greens, so 4, 6, 5, all these different place bells end up making 4th dodging the treble. Same with the red one. The red one, whether it's 3, 5, 4, or 6, will be dodging the treble at the back, because after 3 blows, it's in 6th place. Bit hard to see with my very bad line drawing on the dodge. But if you see what I mean, if you know where you are, so you're a bit hazy on your start to the lead and you manage to fluff your way through it without anyone shouting at you, and you get to this hand stroke here and you think, oh, thank goodness, I'm at the back. I'm just going to dodge and wait for the treble. Oh, thank goodness for that. I know where I am. It's about having lots of different backups. And this is essentially why I stupidly said in the pub to somebody, all the backworks are just Cambridge. Yeah, you don't have to learn anything. Because you just, basically, you know which direction to go and where you end up after 3 blows. And then you end up in a relatively safe place. So what does all this achieve? Okay, right. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So, because there's nothing worse than having somebody reading out what's on the screen. So what does all this achieve? Well, there are similarities and differences. So when you sit down for the first time and learn Carlisle above, you say, okay, this looks completely different from anything I've ever rung before. The 5th place bell is going to make 0.6, 4th dodge the treble. Good grief, that's weird. But it's throwing you a different way to land somewhere familiar. Okay, so it's a lot less scary than you think. What else does it achieve? Well, you start to see how the bells interact. Okay, we've only done the back works. It's not, you know, the front works. Yeah, they don't come out as clean, as nicely as the back works, I'm afraid. But you see a bit of structure. Okay, you realise if you're dodging somebody at the back and you're not intending to meet the treble at the back, the person you're dodging with, hopefully, is intending to meet the treble at the back. Okay, so one of the things that always worries me a little bit is no one ever seems to ask why some people can put people right and others can't. And the question is actually, how do some people know where other people are in the method? And obviously some don't. Well, they have an idea of the structure and how it all fits together, frankly, especially if they're ringing the treble, because they know what place they're in and they see somebody pass them and they go, oh, I know what they're doing. And then they hear a crash at the back and they go, oi, you're supposed to be doing such and such. And they know that because, you know, you're ringing the treble and they passed you in 2-3, and they're ringing Cambridge above, you know they should be at the back and either making six plays lead end or dodging 5-6. So, you know, you're 4 or 5 plays on, you still know who's there and where they should be. But it's not all about putting people right. The thing is, you are bound to go hazy at points when you're ringing minor, because methods change really quickly. You've got a chance to get back on your line quickly. That's the crucial thing. You're a much more useful ringer, especially in splice minor, if you can get yourself back. Okay, I don't conduct, I call. A subtle difference. So a conductor will go, right, you're that place pal, you're that place pal, roll up next time. I call, I go, right, it's this method, Bob. And when I see something happening, I go, oh no. So I really enjoy it when people can put themselves right. I might be able to say you're not there, but I'm not one of these people who can really, you know, put everyone right all at once at all. What I can do is I can spot a hole and I'm fairly sure whether it's me who's gone wrong. And if I can see the hole, I can drop back into it, or somebody can tell me to get up the back, and I'll get up the back and I'll work out which stroke I should be over at hand stroke or over at backstroke or whatever. And I will manage to get myself right relatively quickly. Okay. So what's left? Well, the front works, which are somewhat harder to categorize, although it will look awfully familiar. You'd be amazed how little free choice, free will you've got when ringing the front works. You really will. What do you need to learn, and how do you learn it all? Okay, so I'm going to share again. The most crucial bit, I think, is you're learning. All learning in ringing should be done outside the tower. Okay, practice night's not about practicing stuff, it's about ringing new stuff or ringing stuff better. Okay, you shouldn't be learning, you learn outside the tower. And so there's stuff you will learn to be able to ring this. The crucial thing is, what do you think about when you're ringing? And you know, I've briefly touched on second or sixth place lead end. You know, it's ever so difficult to remember to do that. It takes forever to learn to do it, especially if you're splicing, say, Cambridge and Primrose. It, you know, you'd think it was simple, but it's not. It takes you ages to work it out. I'm just going to have a look at what Ben Keating has asked. Right, he's asking basically, he's learnt the blue line for Cambridge Minor. Would it be beneficial to learn where the others are in the method, say when you're doing a 3-4 dodge or something like that? You don't specifically learn it because what you tend to do is you tend to work out for instance, if you're doing a 3-4 dodge and you're ringing a surprise method, then you're pretty certain there's got to be a place being made on the front, because you can't both pairs can't dodge, and you're not allowed to make fifths. So if you're crossing in 3-4 and crossing back in a dodge, you can't have 1-2 crossing and crossing back and 5-6 crossing and crossing back, for instance. So you sort of, once you understand how it fits together, you don't really learn, you just, it pretty much falls into place. I mean, there are 8 blows, for instance, towards the middle of the lead, 8 blows after the lead. That's 16 blows, plus the half lead, plus the lead end. That's 18 blows. There are only 24 blows in a lead. For those 3 blows, yeah, you've got a rough idea what people are doing. For the rest, it pretty much slots together. once you've really broken that construction apart, it pretty much flows on, really. And that's what I'm saying about having an idea of what people are doing. You don't have to know exactly, but you pretty much have an idea what people are doing. If you're in 3/4, I mean, you are with the treble probably, unless the treble's at the back. But if you're dodging, if you're dodging 3/4 with the treble, for instance, you know the people at the back are dodging. So if they start trying to lie behind, you know they haven't dodged enough. So you can go, oh, carry on dodging, you haven't dodged enough, or whatever. So I hope that helps. It's sort of the construction gives you clues without you actually having to learn anything. I will just quickly do, there are more, these notes will be available as soon as I email them out, if you want them. And there's some bits on the end which are a bit more interesting. So how did we arrive at these lines? So we arrived at 4 backworks, okay? And I'm saying, and hopefully you believe me, there are only 4 possible backworks for standard, regular, surprise, minor methods. There are loads of other backworks. That all these tables here that I showed you, they're all non-Cambridge or non-standard backworks, okay? These are more of them. Okay, there's loads, Denver and Horton and, you know, all these Smithfield, Apollo, you know, loads of different ones. There are only 4, sorry, there are only 4 lines for standard surprise backworks. And that's because we followed the rules about standard methods, which are no more than 2 consecutive blows, no fifths except under the treble, symmetrical, and only 1 place at the half lead or lead end, which we haven't really come on to. The treble path is fixed and beats everyone up and pushes them out of the way. And the bell having the bell at the first half of the lead, the bell about to dodge the treble makes force. The bell at the second half of the lead, which has dodged the treble, when the treble goes in, makes force. Okay, these are the only rules we've really used. Now, if you remember back to the introduction, we had force place delights, where somebody makes force in exactly that place, doesn't matter what they do under, but that's one of the characteristics we used. Therefore, these 4 backworks must be the only ones which give us standard, regular, force place delight methods. There are 35 of them, so you now know the backworks to 76 standard, regular methods. No is obviously a strong word. You have seen. Okay, so if we flip over here and make this slightly smaller, so here we've got the surprise ones. Oh, I do apologize. I just missed slightly that it's this line here that's the divider, not the crease in the middle. Ignore Castleton. So from here over, so Willesden, Woodbine, Cambridge, Primrose, Chester, Morpeth and London. Okay, these are the standard 4 backworks in 2nd and 6th place formats. You get all these surprises. You also get the force place delights. So, like I said, it's all about getting free stuff. The more you can get that's free, the better it is with this. And that's 50 minutes. So I'm going to have to sort of clap and wake you all up now. Come on, wake up. But hopefully you've not felt that was too desperately dull or too desperately difficult. And Greg, you've come back. Why are you looking at it again? Anyway, questions would be very nice, because I don't believe for one moment I've explained it clear enough for everybody to have understood it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Adrian. That's brilliant. I've never seen the derivation of the backworks done in such a clear method. So that was really good. So I'm sure that lots of people will have benefited from that. So we do have a couple of questions in. Ian Hamilton has come forward to say, what's your all-time favourite non-Cambridge surprise, delight or trouble Bob method?
Well, it's bizarre in minor, isn't it, to have a favourite? As a group, I like the fourth place delights, and I thoroughly recommend them to everybody because you don't make thirds after you've dodged the treble, okay? And that's a bit hard to strike. That's why Cambridge is always lumpy. If you're going to go in, you're not playing hunting wrong, like you are in London and Beverley and all these other ones. So you get the situation where you get a pivot bell, something like whatever you do above, dodge the treble, dodge, lead, dodge, go back out and dodge the treble. What's easier than that? That defines what you're doing on the front, and it means you've got practically nothing to learn. So the fourth place delights as a block, I think, are infinitely easier to ring, and I really struggle to see why people start ringing surprise methods. So much easier to ring fourth place delights. I like ones where you don't move very much. So Bourne or Disley or anything where you're staying for ages in one place and doing lots of dodging and places. You don't have to work your bell so hard then.
Excellent. And we've got the mirror image question from Stephen Burr to say, what's your least favourite?
Cambridge. Because it's always hard to strike that thirds after you in treble. It's lumpy. Too many towers. Put a learner on the treble to it. And you can make it more interesting, but or alternatively, any of the treble bobs that we are trying to ring currently, Stephen, because you don't make fourths or thirds, so you spend your whole time moving through from back to front, and they're so, therefore you get far fewer of them, and you end up just chasing space. You know, you think, oh, I can't, it's the very opposite of what's saying about staying in one place. You spend your whole time whizzing about. So yeah, anything like I don't know, I'm trying to think what the really awful ones are. Rochester or Burton, those where you just move constantly and never dodge. Oh.
Excellent. We've got another question from Ben Keating to say, is it possible to splice Cambridge and Norwich? He says he knows these two methods and aware of place bells, but yeah, so
yes, you can splice anything in any format at any point, but not in appeal. Yeah, I'm going to do a little bit on cheap and cheerful splicing in the next one. Okay. Yeah, mix anything up. Yeah, always, especially on 6. It's not that far from coming round. You will find more often than not when you change method, it comes around the next lead, and you wanted to go further. And I'll show you why next week. But yeah, no, splice everything. Always splice. I mean, one of the things we ring at Barnet is Cambridge spliced. You know, you're going along any backstroke, you conduct shouts Cambridge. You start again. That makes Cambridge a bit more interesting. So yeah, no, always splice. Oh, definitely always splice everything. As for whether they splice truly, no, Cambridge and Norwich, you can't get a true 720 out of. So no, you're not going to ring it in appeal.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very good point, and in fact, you know, maybe people will call me a terrible ringer, but I think even ringing false quarters is not necessarily the worst thing on earth. You know, if there's some objective,
if there's a reason for it, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, one of the things I'm trying to do is call, not conduct, peels from each of the grids. And I am fully intending to call quarter peels of parts of the peel, and they're false. But, you know, there's a purpose to doing it. It gets people used to changing the backworks, changing the frontworks, and it gets me used to knowing what I'm supposed to be saying. Because that, you know, you do get a bit wrapped up. More than once I've just sailed through and just forgotten to say something at the lead, and I've changed method and then wonder why no one else has.
Stephen asks, do you have any specific tips for getting back on your line if you forget whether it's a 2nd or 6th place lead end and get it wrong?
Yes. Prepare for both. If you genuinely have no idea, then you, as you're coming up, you think, right, I'm either, so taking that Cambridge 3rd place spell again, you're coming down and you're going, call a bob, call a bob, call a bob, and they don't call a bob. So you go, oh, fine, okay, I have no idea which I'm doing. You've got two choices. You either own up and ask the person next to you, which isn't always the nicest thing to do just for the lead end, because, you know, it puts people off. Or you go, right, okay, I'm going to ring one of them, and you don't split the difference. You absolutely perfectly either dodge or don't, and whichever you do, if it goes crunch, then you have a quick look to see your crunch with and see if they look more doubtful than you. And then you go, obviously you're a bit more accurate in appeal, but at practice, you just go, oh yeah, they look fairly confident, it must be me. So I ran in, okay, I'm not going to dodge treble. I know I'm ringing Cambridge above, I'm going to go and make false. So you have both in your head. I know of no other way of doing it, but you don't split the difference. You never split the difference in ringing, whatever the situation, whether, if you know, whatever number of bells you're on. If you're coming up to somewhere, I mean, you might be ringing Bristol Max or whatever, you come up to 910, you can't remember if this is a dodge or not. You just, if all else fails, you pick one out of the hat and do it. Mm-hmm. But you do it accurately, because then if you were right, no one knows you were lost. Till the next play when you're going, oh, I can't believe I did that, and fall off the line again.
Okay, we've got a question which says, sort of, can you say a bit more about how you actually ring these? That I think the focus has been quite a lot on how you've learnt them, how you've looked at the structure and analysed it. But how do you actually ring these in a tower? What are you looking for, and what are you listening for over and above just noting where the treble is, maybe?
Well, yeah, the learning, going back, we haven't learned them. What we've done is we've constructed them. Okay, the learning is taking the I'm just trying to find the bits about the summarizing the backworks. So you will, at some way or other, you will end up, I'm just going to share again, you will end up, so you don't bother constructing them because it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, what you do is you learn this, you learn the Cambridge, the Norwich, the Carlisle, and the London. Okay, so you learn them. What I'm going to do next week is I'm going to talk about frontworks, but that's an exercise for the reader in some ways. What I'm going to talk about is what you then learn so that you can apply these little chunks that you've learned easily to the methods, okay? And that is, again, something you do outside the tower. And when you've done that second stage of learning, so you learn your backworks and you have a method for getting the frontworks right, whether you learn them or you construct them or you do anything. Then I'll show you what you learn so that you can actually know which one you're ringing, because that's the crucial thing most of the time in minor ringing, is knowing which you're ringing. And then I'm going to talk about what you're thinking while you're doing it. Does that answer the question? I've sort of forgotten.
I think so, yeah. No,
so later, yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Yeah, and that actually leads quite neatly in, because we've had a message of thanks for your very easy to understand and honest opinion about how these things tend to go along. And very much looking forward to the next one. So Very good. So yeah, and we've got.
I better get writing. I thought everyone would say we don't want any more. Go away.
Yeah, and I think we have come to the end of the questions for this session, but it's brilliant. I think people are looking forward to next week. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much again, Adrian, for taking the time to talk to us this evening. And
thank you for asking me.
No, it's great. And yeah, and I hope that there'll be plenty of time to talk at the end of next session about playing methods as well, because that's just crazy.
Well, how many do you want? That's a whole nother subject.
Hundreds and hundreds. I think.
Yeah, well, talk to Stephen about that.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you very much. So yeah, for everyone who's watching, I'll try and make sure that I press the right buttons next week to make sure that we start on time. And that is going to be 7:30 next Friday. So for now, it's goodbye from me. Bye from Adrian. Thank you all very much indeed.
All right, see you next week, hopefully.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.